With the quorum present, I'd like to call this meeting of the Hollis Brookline Cooperative Budget Committee to order at 6:35 p.m. This is a regular meeting for the month of May for the Co-op Budget Committee, with the agenda that was posted more than 24 hours in advance of this meeting. I'd like to take a moment and introduce the people who are present for this evening's meeting, which include myself, Darlene Mann, Tom Whalen, Cindy Van Conant, Raul Blanchet, Matt McGuire, Tony Stanizzi. I have excused absences for Brian Rader and Dave Blinn, and I'd like to welcome Kelly Seeley, our business administrator, to this evening's meeting. If you could all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And ask for agenda adjustments. Anyone has any this evening? Seeing none, we'll move through the appointment of a process observer, which will move Matt up in the queue since one of our members is absent this evening. Seeing no public, we'll go right on through that part of the agenda and move on to the general business section, which is kind of a brief agenda for this evening, but it does include our food service update, which we do annually at this time of year. June will probably be including the maintenance overview, but this is a good time of year. It's quieter as we kind of look forward to the end of the school year, beginning of the next, and the next budget cycle, and it's a good opportunity for us to review the food service department. So Kelly, if you could lead us through, that would be great.
Okay, great. So referring to the packet that went out with the rest of the agenda items. Oh, sorry. Stop. Hold on. Mute my phone.
I realize I just skipped over the minutes, so we'll do those after we're done with the, I don't have my agenda in front of me because I'm projecting the presentation, so we'll get back to approving the minutes when we're finished with the other business.
Oh my gosh. I'll do that in a minute. Okay, so sorry. So the first couple of pages are a review for some of you and maybe brand new for others. So I'll just go through that briefly. The management of our food service department is directed by our director of student nutrition, Amy Cassidy. I believe she's been here about, I think it's 3 years now. Next year would be her 4th. And my position supervises that position. And we split Amy's salary. We split everything that comes in as one bill based on these percentages, and that's co-op 45%. The Hollis School District pays 30%, and Brookline pays 25%.
Kelly, would you want to take questions as you go through?
Absolutely, that's fine.
Did Amy used to be with our work here?
She did. She was in the same position, and then she went to Nashua and just loved us so much that I convinced her to come back. So anyway, that is the structure of management. The employees, when we're fully staffed, consist of a head cook at each school, and the high school has a cook and 4 food service workers, and the middle school has 3 food service workers. And then we have a small position, sometimes it's attached to another one of the food service positions, but it's a 9-hour per week position that is split between all districts, and it does a lot of the paperwork and administrative support for Amy.
Kelly, you mentioned when we're fully staffed. Did we face staffing issues through this past?
Oh, most definitely. I'll have a little more on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the program, we are part of the National School Lunch Program, and you might say, well, what is that exactly? And it's all about assisting schools with a federal meal program. And it's available to all public and nonprofit private schools or public and nonprofit private residential childcare institutions. They're all part of the same program. And the primary focus is to provide nutritionally balanced lunches to children each and every school day. And the benefits that schools get are cash subsidies in the form of free and reduced lunches. And they also normally get USDA-sourced foods. We also have access to free training and resources and program assistance as needed. And in exchange for all of that, our lunches have to meet federal requirements. And that's very laid out exactly what we need to do. And then we also must offer the free and reduced priced lunches to the children in our districts that are eligible for that. And there's an application process that families have to go through for that.
Kelly, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
How has the federal requirements changed in the last few years? I know we had some difficulty meeting them. They weren't actually up, I think it was just they weren't up to our standards of nutritional.
Well, I mean, recently they haven't really changed. About maybe 5 years ago, it was a drastic change that we had. Like we had to do whole wheat pizzas and things that the kids
Right.
more or less rejected. And it's changed a little bit over the years to get back to something that's more flavorful for kids. But for the most part, they haven't changed a lot recently. So.
Okay.
No anchovies, huh?
What's that?
No anchovies.
No, I don't think so anyway. Okay, and so next comes our financial components. So we, of course, have expense, revenue, and the food service program has a fund balance as well. Under expense, we have salary, food, non-food equipment. Revenue, we have local, a state component, and a federal component. The federal is the reimbursement for free and reduced meals. There's a small state component, and local is just our kids and our families paying for their meals. And the fund balance, any revenues that are in excess of expenses are added to or subtracted from the food service fund balance. But we can only hold an average of 3 months in operating costs in that fund balance. So as it starts to build, we have to find homes for it. So that's pretty much the review of what the program is. Now, FY22 has come with some challenges, as you might imagine. Number one is supply chain issues. We have a serious lack of supplies coming to our distributors, so that affects every school in the state, probably every school in the nation. And we have to deal with substitutions, and that causes last-minute menu changes. And we try to minimize the lack of product, sometimes by ordering more in advance, but where do we put it? So the state funding has, they recently came through with some funding to help with these issues, so that's a good thing. Then our surplus commodity foods, we have in the past always had USDA supplied low-cost staples, and those are things like beef and cheese, fruit, chicken strips, things like that. But lately, they are not available, I'm sure, due to the supply chain issues that we experience with our vendors. And so we've basically depleted whatever we had early on in the year, and now we have to purchase anything that we need from our normal suppliers. And then the cost of food and paper goods, like everything else that we're facing these days, has increased. We normally get an annual price increase, and this year we've been getting several price increases, so that may or may not continue. And some products came even with a surcharge, a COVID surcharge. And so we've been paying high prices for second or third choice products because the supplies are not there and they're at very expensive prices.
So have we made a shift from, to like a lot of more disposable elements of the meals, like individual packaging, and so that we're not using like hard trays or anything like that? So I'm assuming we made that switch to more of those disposable?
I think we try to, but everything
Where you can get
is
it.
on short supply and expensive. So I can say yes to that, but then there might be 2 months where we don't,
Right, okay, so where we had to, we would go back to using trays and
Yeah,
things like that.
but whatever they needed to do to adapt to.
So looking forward, assuming things aren't going to get necessarily better, are we just going to, move back to the way things were kind of pre-COVID using?
We're going to try.
Yeah.
But, but we'd like to stay with what we've adapted to, that
Right.
works. Some
Right,
things
right,
don't
right,
work.
right.
But, yeah, we'll try to get back to normal as much as we can. Okay, so our free meals, of course, a great thing, but that increases our participation. And so that, as you might imagine, we already have a kitchen in the high school that's very challenging to move students through without increasing participation. But when you increase it to the levels that we have this year, it's been very challenging. So we try to just get them through the lines as quickly as possible. And that can even affect what they decide to serve so that they can facilitate that. But we did have some great improvements this year. Last year, the gym was being used for alternative service location, which was a huge ordeal. And so we were able to get everybody through the lunch lines like we used to before COVID hit. So at least we had that going for us this year. And then another big challenge has been staffing, which you mentioned. Both schools have been short-staffed, I think, from the beginning of the year. And, we gain people, and then we lose people, and we gain people, and we lose people. And so we've been keeping our substitutes very busy. I don't think they have to worry about any work.
So on average, with the substitutes, are you meeting the full staffing levels, or you're still short?
It varies. Sometimes, because of the substitutes, we're good, and sometimes we're not. I know a couple times this year, Amy, who never does this, but she's been at the serving line serving kids food because there just isn't another
Right.
person, So for the most part, she's been able to make that work. But as a result, you're getting very burnt out individuals that are very dedicated. I can't believe some of them how dedicated they are, but they're getting very overworked, and they're all underpaid. I mean, you can easily go to so many different businesses around us here and get paid more than you can in our food service departments. So the effects of free meals, though, is pretty astounding when you think of it. Back in FY19, before COVID started, we were doing 3,382 breakfasts.
This is just for the co-op?
Yes, this is just for the co-op. And in the same time period, we were doing 67,000 lunches. Then COVID hit at the end of FY20, so that went up a little bit for breakfasts and down actually for lunches. But then you look at FY20 and FY22, FY21 and FY22, the breakfast just went off the charts with 17,000 meals in FY21, and this year we're at 24,253, and that's only through March, so there's a few more months after that to make that.
The fact that we went to a later time starting at school means that there was extra time to maybe for the kids to stop by and eat. Is there a relationship
It could
there?
be. I'm not sure. I think it has more to do with being free, actually.
Oh, okay.
And just kids realizing what a great thing it is because it's free. Now, the big question is going to be, how many of those kids can we keep once it's not free?
This includes last summer as well? Did
yes.
we do any, I've actually,
We
should
didn't
ask, did we do anything last
Yeah,
summer?
we didn't do
It was-
anything
Was it
last
the summer
No,
before?
no.
Did we ever do, I thought,
We
that might have
might-
been in 20.
We might have done out in the summer between FY20 and 21, yeah. Okay, and then our lunches, went up from 51,000 to 64,000 to 79, and again, that 79 is only through March, so that's quite a significant increase.
Are you going to talk about transition plans to get back to normal? How are you going to do that, or are there any ideas?
Somewhat, but,
Okay.
we don't know what normal is going to be either, because well, let me get to that. Okay, so the next page is talking about our historical financials, and you can again see the effects of free meals there. Our reimbursable amount has gone from, in FY19, when COVID was nothing, of 44,000 to the next year, where it hit at the end of the year to 39,000 and went down. And then in FY21 and FY22, you can see 265,000, 512,000. So It's really made a huge difference in having those free meals. And then our expenses have also gone up as well. And then I talked about the fund balance, which is the second to the last line. That's the amount that was in excess over revenues and expenses. And last year, we only added $658 to our fund balance. But this year, we're estimating to add around $185,000, so.
So the more students having free meals, the more reimbursement you get from the federal and or the state, and therefore there's more money available to put into the fund.
There is, but then there's a lot less in local revenue because the only revenue we're generating is from à la carte sales because
Okay.
you don't get reimbursed for that. So, and the difference between last year and this year is we didn't have à la carte sales last year. We just couldn't handle that with the two different service locations. So this year we are benefiting by having à la carte sales back again. Okay, and some of the accomplishments, I had this on last year, but I think it's worthy to say because Amy does an incredible job, even under the conditions that we had with COVID. We have an administrative review every 3 years. She had no findings, that's just unheard of. And in FY21, we also had a COVID review by the state, and there were no findings, and with excellent comments on compliance. Her health inspections are always passing with praise, and she's even finding time, a little bit of time, to do some marketing with Twitter to try to get, interest in food from adults and from students. And like I said, our a la carte is back, and we're offering main meals, salads, sandwiches, parfaits, smoothies, and pizza. And they have been, right before COVID, they were really trying to match those real world choices, like, Chipotle offers the bowls and the burrito bowls, and so they try to replicate things like that are hot in the food industry. And another big thing was standardizing all of the recipes across all the districts. That hadn't been done before either. Okay, so we already talked a little bit about meal counts, but what you didn't see on that previous page was in FY21, the figure through March was 42,000, and this year we're at 79,000. Those two are apples to apples. And with breakfast, last year through March it was 9,895, and now we're at 24,000. So these are busy people, the people that work in our food service department. So FY23, the challenges we have now are the free meals end at the end of this year. So our participation will clearly go down, but how much will it go down? How much can we keep, because people love the food service meals that they are getting. And another big challenge is, in order to be eligible for free and reduced, the families have to fill out the paperwork. And we wanted them to fill out the paperwork during the COVID years, but that was very challenging because, why? Why do I need to do that? Because I'm going to get this free meal whether I do it or not. So it's going to be really challenging to get them to do that.
But there are other things as well, aside from that, filling out that paperwork does impact. I mean, I know in our district, and overall the
huge.
SAU,
Yes.
we have a relatively low percentage of students who qualify for free and reduced lunches, but those numbers affect the level of any type of Title I funding, IDEA funding, well, not IDEA as much as Title I, and even the federal funding through the ESSER and ARP grants, as well as adequacy. So it does have, filling out that paperwork has kind of a ripple effect into other things that affect the budget aside from just being able to offer free or reduced.
Exactly. So I'm sure it had an impact on us in the COVID years because they weren't filling the paperwork out. I'm sure that had an impact. And now we're faced with them still not filling it out, and it, like Darlene says, there's a trickle-down effect there as well.
But you probably have more filling it out, right?
No one wants to fill it out, so.
With that much of a jump in meals, and we're
Yeah.
not getting more participation in, well,
Because from their perspective, there's no reason to fill it out. because I'm going
Right,
to get that.
everyone's
'cause they're
getting it
getting
for free,
free.
so I don't need to fill out the paperwork, because I'm gonna get it for free anyway.
So did those programs that you just mentioned make adjustments for the COVID? Or they just said,
Well.
whatever? And
Well,
now you
so
have-
there were some considerations that said they did realize the impact, particularly last year, and said, okay, we'll go back to some of the numbers we used in prior years as a way to kind of smooth that, because otherwise a lot of districts that had higher percentages and still weren't seeing the paperwork, they would have seen dramatic decreases in adequacy aid, for example, which is a key component as a revenue offset to the budget. And so they did try to make those adjustments, but I'm not sure going forward how willing they're going to be to make those types of adjustments.
Right, so we need to do some level best of ours to try to get people back to doing what they were doing before. That'll be a challenge. And then getting to and staying fully staffed is also going to be a big challenge. And, you know, unfortunately, we still have a few years on the co-op support staff CBA because we really need to get those wages up. So it will be challenging to stay fully staffed. And then, of course, we know we're going to reduce participation, so we need to come up with some strategies. And I'm sure one of those things will include more marketing than we've been doing this year, and hopefully we have a little more time to do that.
I can imagine the start of the school year will be particularly challenging with really just not knowing where.
Yes.
What
is it gonna be?
What number of meals to even make
Exactly. Yes.
at any given time.
Absolutely.
One of the things we're doing at
Inventory.
work, just to get people used to the new concept, which is the old concept prior to COVID, is we've gone from grab what you want and walk out to now grab what you got, you go through the line, they actually check to see what you're getting out, even though they're not charging you.
Oh.
At least you're going, psychologically, you're going through the process of going through the line
Right.
and stopping at the cashiers.
Oh, that's a good start.
And we're doing this for about a month and a half. And we're going to go back to paying as you go around the same time.
Oh, well, that's a good idea.
So we went like from May through June as a transition period. And then after June, then we'll go back to normal. And after June, then we'll go back to normal. Do I sound like that? So there's maybe a way to transition people back to
Well,
the old
unfortunately,
habit.
we have to follow the food service rules, so we don't have that luxury. We have to charge when the kids come back.
Right.
But the good news is there is a waiver in place in which if we were profitable on December 30th, 2021, then we can charge the same prices, or even lower if you wanted to, that we did pre-COVID. So that's good news. And we will probably take advantage of probably the same price that we did before, because we know it's going to be challenging, so.
I'm just curious, are the kids really consuming everything? It's free, they get it? I mean, is there any way that we can monitor that? They're really using it, eating what it is that they're getting, or is it just throwing it in the trash?
Well, I'm sure they're eating a portion of it for sure, but unfortunately, in order to get that reimbursable food, or the reimbursable dollars, we have to give them certain components. And if they don't eat it, it's going to be wasted, absolutely. We like to think that most of them are eating it, but we don't have a choice. We can choose, if we wanted to really give them what we know will be what they'll eat, we don't get the reimbursable dollars, so. And it's a lot of work on the food service people to monitor that kind of activity. I don't know that that's even possible without hiring more people, so.
Thank you.
Kelly, you said that the prices will go back to pre-COVID, but our costs are probably
True.
close to 50% higher or more.
True,
Maybe double in some
but if you
things.
look at our historical, not counting our COVID years as an example, but we were coming up with fund balance, we were 45,000, 99,000, 26,000. So There is some wiggle room there, but that's going to be the challenge, is are we going to be able to maintain that?
Or you might gonna, again, go through a transition period, well, for a little bit of time, you charge the pre-COVID prices as they were, and then judge what the volume and the traffic flow is.
That would be
And then at some
perfect.
point down the road, maybe a month or 2 or 3, then you start charging up to match
That
your
would be
true cost.
perfect. We'll have to see if they will allow us to do that. I'm not sure that will be allowed. It might just be.
I mean, you need to collect data, and the only way to do
Sure.
it is to go back to things that you know, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And then establish a baseline.
Absolutely. And hopefully, we will have the luxury of adjusting prices mid-year if that is what
Right.
what the data tells us. That would be ideal. Okay, and then, yes, we don't know whether we'll still have continued supply chain issues. I suspect that we will, at least at the beginning of the year. And then will our USDA commodities be available once again? We'd like to think that will happen as well. And then, that's sort of a repeat of what I just said, so. And then what to charge for lunch and breakfast, we kind of discussed that already, because it's gonna be tough for families to go from free to paying anything. So, how do we cover our costs, to Tom's point, and charge the right amount of money? So, that is where we are for FY '23. And then for future success, starting in FY '23 and beyond, we definitely want to get back to normal operations, whatever that looks like. And being fully staffed is very critical to making that happen. We are right now working with our architect on just redesigning the serving line, because it's more set up now as it is for elementary kids. And by redesigning it, that's one way we're going to increase participation, because the way they're suggesting that we do it makes food more attractive, more accessible, and the kinds of food that fit into a different serving design, so to speak. So, and some of our equipment definitely needs to be upgraded, whether it's in a great design or not, it's starting to get close to failing, so. And then Amy wants to focus on breakfast. As you see, that was a big hit. So once we get back to paid breakfast, she's hoping she can retain a lot of that participation. And I think I already mentioned marketing is also going to be key, using Twitter to bring in the kids, or whatever social media is popular at the time. And she also wants to create a forum for student and parent input, so she can make the program better to fit their wants and desires. So that's where food service is today.
I just had a question. I'm not sure where kind of the fund balances or student account balances that needed to be collected or were in arrears. If we have a substantial level of that, and if we maybe use this time frame
Yeah.
of, not charging to be able to work with families to recover
Yeah, I think
balances
she's
and
done a
things like
lot
that.
of that
Mhm.
in the past couple of years. I'll have to check with her and see where those stand, but
I mean, I think using My School Bucks probably, helps.
It does help a lot,
Alleviate
yes.
the problem.
to a certain
To a certain
extent, but we
degree.
can't refuse kids food either, so.
Right, right.
That is
Mhm.
the other part of that challenge. So, yeah, let me check with her on where those stand right now, because I know she's done a lot of work over the past couple of years, to collect those outstanding funds.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
You said you had a question.
I asked 2 or 3
Oh,
questions that are on the
I
way.
didn't know, you said Loretta has a question.
Yeah, did you ask the Loretta question?
Yeah, right.
Well, Loretta my wife was primarily interested in the staffing shortage.
Yes.
Like, what are your plans to address that?
Well, there is one clause in the CBA that we are going to take advantage of, and that allows us, when positions have been unfilled for a long time, we can hire at the top step on the grid. So we are going to start using that. But, the key is they have to be open for a long time, because sometimes they get filled and they don't last long, and then they're open again, so. we are going to take advantage of that.
Kelly, just real quick, where are the paid meals revenue stated? Is that under local? Or?
Local,
Okay.
yes.
So it'll be interesting to see how this all resolves, because clearly, every school district is serving more meals, needs more inventory, is having more issues. But now as we start the new year, everyone's meal counts will go down, won't need as much.
Right.
So it'll be very
Yes.
interesting to see how things level.
Maybe that will take care of itself, you know?
Possibly. Well, it'll be just interesting to watch and see
Right.
how that resolves.
And some school districts who are not going to show a profit on December 30th of 2021 will be forced to charge more
Right.
than what they're used to.
Mhm.
And that, I have a feeling, will be a further hardship for some districts. So we're lucky in that we do have that choice.
Right.
The meals prepared on site or are they brought in?
Yes. Yes. There's
Quite an
full
operation.
kitchens in every school, and they do prepare most everything there.
One question, was there a definition of what a meal is? In other words, if you go in and grab one item and you walk out, is that a meal?
No, that's an
Or-
à la
That's à la
carte.
carte.
There
That's
is
à la
a
carte.
very clear
Okay, good.
definition
You have to
of
have
what
the
a
tray
meal is.
with certain components on
Yeah.
the tray.
Okay,
Yes, right.
we don't use trays at work, by the way.
Well, you don't have specified meals either.
Yeah, we have a special cardboard items.
Yes.
Where's
Throw away.
recyclable? Were they available
Yeah,
though? I don't know.
recyclable, yeah.
Or
I'm
they
not
were
sure what
using.
she's using at this moment in time,
We
so-
were using some of the recyclable ones at one point. and I
Yeah.
don't-
Yes.
With COVID, I don't know if they were still available, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure what they're
It's
using.
all about
now.
availability.
Yeah.
Use what you got, or can
Okay.
get.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Kelly, so for some of the kitchen, the equipment upgrades, we obviously have that $375,000, and it might be higher, as you
Yeah,
said, that was
higher
as of
or lower,
March.
yes.
So you have a plan in place for utilizing those funds and
Well-
maybe making at least some of the changes? I mean, we're not going to be,
Yes.
redoing both sets.
Well, yeah, there's two things we're looking at right now, is redesigning that line, and
Mm-hmm.
then for those of you who've been in the cafeteria, if you're facing the line off to the side, there's a window, and right now, behind that window is some giant dishwasher that's taking up way too much space. So we're going to get rid of that and install a much more compact, usable dishwasher, and turn that area that is now free into sort of a grab-and-go sort of endeavor, and it'll still have the window, and kids will be able to specify what they want. So we hope to make that more useful and more profitable. And then, like I said, changing the line should do a lot more for bringing participation in, we're hoping, so, yeah. And, yeah, we are planning to use a lot of that balance, that fund balance, because at some point, we're gonna be in trouble and we have to use it, so
Right, right.
this will give us a good
Yeah, we have had
opportunity.
those years, and it's kind of,
Yep.
it's nice to have it. In
Yes.
those years where, we're kind of just not reaching the levels that we need to be at.
Right, but unfortunately, you can't just hold on to it until
Right,
you wanna use
right.
it. It's like, nope, you gotta use it
Yep,
now
use it
because
when
you're
it's ready.
over the limit, so. This will give us an opportunity to use some of that and not get in trouble, if you will, so.
Do you want to explain that, just because I don't know if Tony knows, like, you have to spend the money from the food service on food service, so that's why they're talking about spending that amount of money.
Right, because you can only hold 3 months of your operating expenses
Yeah.
in your fund balance, and if you go over that, they sort of force you, they meaning the state, to spend that. So, you have to get creative if you don't have a plan, so.
Is that
We have a plan.
is that the 375?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
exactly, yeah.
But you've spent it over the years on equipment, like things that we're getting ready to fill, because
Yeah.
anything, it doesn't have to be on food services, it
Right,
just be on
one
anything
year-
in the kitchen, right?
Yes, well, and one year, many years ago, we used it to pay for the benefits of the food service staff.
Oh.
Yeah, so there, like I said, you get creative when you are forced to use it.
Do you have to source the food from specific suppliers, or can you go to the farm stand and
You
So
can
we
go,
you know,
you can go
sell
locally to
whatever.
get, or get that kind of supplies. We are also part of a buying group, so that helps keep the costs down as well. So, but you're not required to go to certain vendors, but you do have to go through a procurement process to obtain the food that we get.
So remind me again, is the contract ends the third year of the contract with the
We
food
have
staff?
2 more years.
2 more years, so therefore, if you wanted to increase the salary of the staff, you have to do it. Can you go ahead and add and implement
No.
something like that?
The
No?
only way we could do it is through a sidebar agreement,
Okay,
which may become a reality, but we haven't started talking about anything like
Okay.
that. Because we're going to employ that one section. It doesn't benefit all of the staff, but it will at least attract people,
yeah,
new hires, so.
but it doesn't make sense if you have new staff that were hired at much higher.
No, it
salary.
is.
Then you
it
tell
does-
us
You know,
to
you
go
have
from
to-
around
Yes,
Yeah.
it opens a whole nother can of worms.
Exactly,
yes.
exactly. That's all I have.
It's definitely a lot to manage. And you mentioned that the recipes across the SAU are consistent. Are the menus the same? Like, or
I
maybe
think-
among the elementary? and
Right,
maybe
yes.
the
I
co-op?
think they are as same as they can be, yes,
Mhm.
given the supplies
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what is available.
Makes it much easier to manage.
Oh, for sure, yes.
Great, well, thank you. It's always a great conversation, and I think, having the free meals offered is definitely necessary at the time, and will be just continue to be exciting way to manage food services in the upcoming school year.
Yes,
To
by
see
the
how
seat of your
all of that
pants.
gets done, and kudos to the team, who I'm sure does that seamlessly while they're juggling a million things.
Yes.
And in most cases, the students and staff and parents would never know that you had the
Exactly.
supply issues and shortages that you had. So
Yes.
it's a testament to the amount of work and effort that they put into kind of maintaining that equilibrium.
Absolutely, and you have to give so much credit to Amy because she has become a guidance counselor this year and last year to help her staff get through all that they're going through to make it look seamless, and she does. She
Right,
makes
I
it.
mean, just the sheer
so-
magnitude of what
Yes.
they're producing, regardless of shortages.
Right,
It's staggering to think that staffs that are that small are producing that many meals.
absolutely.
Compared to what, historically, that same group of people,
Right,
a number
and-
of staff members have done. So
And if you consider, like, at HPS down the road, they just recently went back to the cafeteria, so they were putting food in containers and taking it to classrooms. So imagine what
Adding
that
that
was.
whole layer.
Yeah, that was a whole nother layer. Plus, they have a huge amount of participation at HPS in particular, so it was just crazy for them there. And if you look at all of the districts together, they're feeding 70% of our kids.
Wow.
70%. So,
Plenty of ketchup
oh,
on
lots,
everything.
yes.
And just mentioning too, when I was talking about student accounts, for those that aren't aware, there is an online platform called My School Bucks where parents can make deposits, and the kids have a card and a number assigned, an account number assigned, and that's what they use to kind of, they can certainly pay, with cash, but that is the best thing I
Yes,
think that we've,
game changer,
ever
right?
implemented. I personally, I don't care how many fees you charge me, just, I put that card number in, I'm like, boom, his account is funded. If you have children within the schools and they graduate, any balances can go to the other children and things like that. And then that whole platform has been expanded to offer, like a school store when in the Hughes in the primary school, they were offering like after-school programs that you had to pay for. You could pay for them that way and things like that.
Yep.
So I think that's a
And
really-
athletics as well, we do,
Right.
yeah.
So that's a really nice service, I think, and I do view it as a service for families. It just makes it a lot easier to kind of manage all
Yep.
of that. So.
Except when you find out your son's been buying chocolate chip cookies for all his friends.
Well, yeah, I do have to actually
Oh.
remind him every so often.
Then there's
All of a sudden
that.
he'll be like, Mom, I have no money left. I'm how is there only $2 left? I just put
They
it
think
here.
we're not looking.
Exactly, and then actually, the last time I looked, I said, how much is he? But I'm like, oh God, next year he's gonna actually like have to pay for lunch. It's gonna cost me so much money. But now I'll know what all those other moms are saying as their boys, went through high school and everything.
Oh, yes,
So
2 lunches.
start funding that account now. But- Well, thanks, this was a great overview, and it's always good to see kind of, we're in a good position as we
Yes.
kind of move forward to
Yes.
see a fund balance like that.
It
And,
appears to be so, yes.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. So Cindy, the only other item I have in the general business portion is a school board update. I shared the link to the board packet with everyone. I think there's always good reference information.
Yeah,
So-
I would encourage everybody, if they have a chance, to look at it. We had 2 presentations, not specific to, dollar amounts, but Gina did one on all of the syllabus that the teachers are using and all it's an extensive document. You can bring up each class and look at what they're using for, any kind of reading, and, it was a ton of work that they've done. And then Tim gave one on high school class sizes. This is the first time that we've had like a preliminary. This was when the kids kind of registered. Usually
it's funny you mentioned that, because I did feel like it was, I'm like, did we normally see it at this time?
we've never done it this way before, because usually we find out after the fact. So we're kind of curious to see how it falls out, like our kids signing up for, all these weird classes that they're really never going to take, and then when we get down. But we only have, language is always an issue, just because, once you get up to the higher languages, the class sizes are small. There are a few classes that are getting, pretty large, even in language, like Latin this year, they've got quite a few, but we'll see if it falls out. So we're going to have a comparison to see what they pre-sign up for, and then we'll see it again in October after all the add and drops to
Right.
see how much of it's padded, and,
Right.
'cause, it's hard for them to make a schedule if the kids really aren't going to use it. And after add drop, especially the semester things, I think
Right,
end up
right.
being, they find out their buddy's going to take, memoirs or something, so they decide to take it instead. Or, the teachers, once the teaching list comes out, sometimes I think there's changes. The only financial, and we didn't really get a dollar amount, Andy talked about the parking lot, the dirt lot again. He and Officer Bergeron and Mr. Grzone have been looking at that and are considering doing the first stages, which is basically grading it out, and then I think putting gravel.
Yeah, for a
Kelly
year.
might know more because
Yeah.
facility part of it. But he just came with a discussion on it. We didn't vote on that or anything. He didn't have any dollar amounts in that yet, so I expect to see that in June probably.
Yeah, we should be getting those
Some
dollar
quotes.
Yeah.
The one only big concern that any of us had was, what is the runoff in there? Because usually there's puddles, and, you don't want to go to expense to put all this gravel and sand and everything in there to prep it for, paving at some point, and then it all get washed out.
Right, right.
So Andy was gonna look into that with the facilities director, and that was pretty much it.
Are we seeing the retirements for the district, or specifically at the high school or the middle school?
Yeah, there's,
We
I forget
We
how
did- I
many
didn't think
exactly,
we
but a
ended up
number
with
of
that
them.
many.
I'm sorry?
I didn't think we ended up with that many. Did we?
I might be getting it mixed up with other districts too, but yeah, I think there is about 4, I want to say, 4 retirements.
Yeah, 4 or 5 is all I
Yeah,
can
4 or
think of off
5,
the
I
top.
think. Yeah.
Andy did have quite a few new hires that they had hired. We had a couple.
Just resignations.
Yeah, we do
Yeah,
have
things
some
like that.
resignations as well.
So that will, that doesn't always even out financially, so.
Right,
that-
right.
That might be
Right,
a
it's
place
always,
that'll-
always a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick question, can you provide a quick update on the unassigned fund balance?
Right now,
Yeah, has there been any change from last month?
I think it's about the same as it
Okay.
was. It may end up a little higher, but I haven't done a revenue expense report for this.
So we're still in the say $400,000 to $500,000 range.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
No? Okay, thank you. I skipped over the minute approval, because I didn't have the agenda up in front of me. So we actually will have 2 sets of minutes to approve tonight. Dawn sent out a note about some minor revisions to the January 27th minutes, which we somehow overlooked in the flurry of approving public hearing and things like that. So at this time, I'll take a motion to approve the amended minutes of the January 27th meeting.
I'll make a motion.
From Raul, seconded by
Second.
Tony.
Tom. The people absent at that meeting were Raul, Dave, and Cindy.
So I cannot make a motion?
You can make a motion.
Okay,
You
but
can-
I'll stop
You can
staying.
certainly, you can actually still vote on the minutes. You've reviewed them and made comments or,
Right.
you know. So, but it's just kind of to just let people know, sometimes when individuals are absent, they just have a standing, you know, I'll abstain because I wasn't there. But if you reviewed
But I
them
mean,
or
I reviewed it.
reviewed the
yeah.
meeting, then no issue with it. So, any other questions about those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of the January meeting, it's unanimous, 600. And we have the minutes of the April 21st meeting, so I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from April 21st.
I'll make a motion to approve.
From Raul, seconded by Tony. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes from the 21st?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain because I didn't really.
Okay,
review them.
so that was
I
1, 2,
wasn't here.
3. Tom, were you a yes? So that's 5. Yeah, Cindy, Dave, and Brian were absent from that meeting. You're gonna abstain, Cindy?
Yeah.
So it's a vote of 5-0. Okay. Just looking forward at our calendar, we would be meeting the 4th week of June, which is the 23rd. The school board meets on the 15th. The last day of school is the 17th, I think. Graduation is
11th.
the 11th. So and then we typically take off for the summer months, so we wouldn't meet in July, and then we would meet again on the 25th of August. So just so everyone has those dates in mind. Also, hopefully for the June meeting, I've started to review some of the pieces of legislation that we've talked about earlier in the year. There have been a lot of bills that have been killed, and they're not moving forward. So hopefully for June, the legislative session will be almost over by June 23rd, and I think a lot of the bills will have been voted on at that time. So hopefully I can put an update together then. And I would encourage everyone to review the board packet for June, because Kelly, you might have a recommendation for fund encumbrances and things like that as the end of the year is approaching.
Possibly, yeah.
So, and just a reminder that I did share with everyone, because Kelly forwarded a copy of the audit, and so that'll be on the agenda for August, so you have plenty of time to review it prior to that meeting. So if no one has any other comments or questions for tonight's meeting, I'll look to our process observer, Matt.
It's a quick meeting tonight. Yeah, under an hour. I think it was efficient.
Yeah,
Good update on the food services.
great.
So,
Okay. And with that, at 7:24 PM, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
from Raul, seconded by
I can get behind that.
Tom, or Cindy.
That's
Cindy.
Cindy.
We'll go with Cindy on this one. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Have a
Doc.
happy Memorial Day.